Hi, my name is Rob, and I'm addicted to guitars, especially cigar box guitars. Now, what's a cigar box guitar? Thank you for asking, because that's a very good question. Let me show you. So, a cigar box guitar looks something like this. Now, usually built from the body of a cigar box, although other types of boxes might be used. This particular box actually came from the boot barn. You can kind of see that a little bit there. It was a box that contained a leather care kit that I repurposed because I really liked the box. Thought that it thought that it looked cool, and so I built a guitar out of it. And I took I took and put a little piezo pickup under the lid and got a volume pot on it and a jack so I can plug it into an amp, give it a little bit more volume. And then I put this bridge that was made by MGB Guitars. Although a piece of wood or other materials would have worked. Put this little hinge on it that you can kind of see here for a tailpiece to anchor the strings. Put some fret wire that I also got from MGB Guitars and some tuning machines that I got from the same company. But then I put a little threaded bolt here, made a nut, put some wood screws in it, made the neck from some boards that I got at Lowe's or Home Depot. Kind of put these little hooks here that I can then kind of maybe hook a strap to or whatnot. Did a little wood burning to decorate it. Put uh, some grommets in here. Grommets like you might find on a shower curtain or on an old piece of tarp or whatnot, and then a couple of screws to kind of secure it, and then the hardware that you see um, was not the original hardware. I actually repurposed the hinges and clasp from another box, but anyway, so yeah, I matter of fact, you can see there the boot barn there. I like the box and I wanted to make a guitar out of it, so I built me a cigar box guitar. Um, you know, I like I like it the sound of it when I strum it. But anyway, so yeah, I mean you can finger the fretboard there and kind of do play it like a regular six string guitar, except it's got three strings. Although there are all kinds of variations on cigar box guitars. Some I've actually built one with 12 strings. I've built a few with six strings. Um, there's there's different there's just all kinds of different things you can do. Your imagination is really the limit here. Now, I mean, some science does come into play. You're going to have to factor for string tension, scale length, things of that nature. But anyway, so this is one of my loves, one of my passions that I enjoy doing. And so now I want to talk to you, give you a little history lesson on kind of where these instruments come from, because I'm not the first person to ever build one of these, right? I didn't invent it. There's actually people out there who are way better than I am at this kind of thing. They've been doing it, and so again, a little history here, right? Um, so people have been making homemade instruments probably since the dawn of time, or at least since they've been making music. If you read in the Bible, you'll find trumpets being made from like ram's horns and things like that. If you look like you know at Native American history, you'll see that they made instruments from like bone and animal skins and things of that nature. Because companies like Gibson, Yamaha, Fender, Martin, they haven't always existed, right? But people have been making music for a long time. Now, with the cigar box guitar, probably one of the earliest examples comes from a painting that was done in the 1870s that shows a couple of soldiers in the Civil War making a fiddle or playing with a fiddle that had been made from a cigar box guitar. About the 1870s, to early 1900s, there were also, like a few books and magazine articles written that explained kind of how people could make homemade instruments, particularly fiddles and guitars and such. All right. Now you kind of also got to look at what was going on during that time frame. We're talking like Jim Crow era. We're talking, going into the Depression era. Um, we're also talking about the pre-modern era with the advent of the internet and things being mass produced and instruments being able to be acquired cheaply, right? So again, people wanted to make music. You hear tale of like people who lived in the Appalachian Mountains making dulcimers. That way they could kind of sit on their porch in the cool of the evening and you know and make a little music. There's also things like instruments made from jugs and wash tubs and washboards and things of that nature. So with the cigar box guitar, and again, like going late 1800s through the Depression era, that's kind of when the blues came about, right? You know, um, so people might take, you know, an old cigar box, right, that they had laying around the house, and they might take some nails, right? Maybe some bolts, uh, pull, a broomstick, or maybe a piece of wood like this that might have been, an old fence post. A few wires from the screen door, right? Or, some baling wire, something like that. Again, common things that people had just laying around the house. And they put this together, things that were never meant to be a musical instrument, but they put it together and they made it sing. And there are, a few museums and other people, have preserved some of these things, and some of these instruments that were built like 100 years ago are still playable today. Imagine that, right? So the creativity, the skill that people had, but these instruments, again, they weren't built by like master luthiers. They were built by common everyday people like you and me, right? Who just want to make a little music. So fast forward a little bit to the post World War II era, and times weren't so hard. Now we kind of had this economic boom, and people, companies like Yamaha had come along, and Gibson and Fender and Martin, and they had a way to mass produce instruments, you know, and I mean, again, today I can get on Amazon, I can order a guitar. Won't cost me much. I mean, I think I can probably find a guitar, be a really crappy guitar for, maybe $40, up to around $100, right? Not super expensive. But I can find one. I can have it delivered to my front door tomorrow. I can I can go to Guitar Center, right? Like a 15-20 minute drive from my house, and I can buy a brand spanking new guitar if I really want. Um, I can get on eBay, Reverb, Craigslist, all kinds of different places on the internet, and order. Shoot, I can go to a pawn shop, right, or a secondhand store like a Goodwill, and find used instruments. Okay, I mean, guitars and other musical instruments can be had. They can be had relatively inexpensive. Today's a wonderful day to be living in. But back, 100 years ago, it wasn't like that. Like I said, I mean, times were tough for people, and they made do with what they had. So now you come after World War II, and things started to be mass produced. You had things like the Sears catalog. People could order things through the mail. Music stores kind of cropped up, and people could go and buy things. And so these homemade instruments kind of fell out of favor because why have this little homemade instrument when I can go buy a professionally made instrument, right? And it doesn't take much time, effort, or money. So then, somewhere, in the 1990s, people like Shane Spiel came along. Shane Spiel, he's a performer, um, but he kind of got into cigar box guitars, and then some other performers came along, let's see, let me look here. Well, Bo Diddley actually back in the day, but then Billy Gibbons of ZZ Top, you know, um, Tom Wales, um, C6 Steve, Ed King of Leonard Skinner. Actually, he was known for using a cigar box guitar at times. Joe Buck, um, real popular or real popular artist today would be Samantha Fish. She uses cigar box guitars as part of her regular routine, and her crowds ask her for it. That's the beauty of this, right? Well, so Shane Spiel actually he wrote this book called "Making Poor Man's Guitars." Cost you about $20 on Amazon. Now I'm not trying to sell you anything. I'm just trying to tell you a little bit about this book if you want, a good reference point, right? So this book is part history, part how to. The book talks about some of these cigar box guitars that have been built back in the day, and Shane even takes the time to kind of list some parts that you would need and some, step by step how to maybe go about building these things if you wanted to build something like that. And a lot of uh, we have a lot of people today, probably since the 1990s, interest in cigar box guitars has grown. You have what's called the cigar box guitar revolution, right? Which has just been it's kind of part of the DIY industry, and so like there's just a group of people out there who want to do it yourself kind of thing, and DIY lutherie is now kind of a thing, right? This idea that people you know can build a nice sounding, nice playing instrument in their garage or even at their kitchen table. um Now I'll tell you, you're probably not going to build a guitar that sounds like a Martin or a Gibson or a Fender, right? I mean, especially in your garage with, with basic tools, even, if you've got some decent power tools or whatnot. Unless you've just got some kind of like factory level setup. But you can still, this idea that you can build an instrument, in your garage or at your kitchen table, right? It's fascinating to me. So a couple of businesses sprang up. CB Giddy out of I want to say New Hampshire. They um, they kind of sprang up. I want to say that they were you know the first, and they sell a lot of different parts, tuners and strings, and some kits and stuff like that. They also have a lot of literature, and they they're kind of popular among some of the builders. But then the vendor that I use, MGB Guitars, you see kind of on my hat here and on my little drink cozy. Um, Mike Breedlove out of the Tampa, Florida area. He he's the founder and owner of MGB Guitars. Good friend of mine. I'm a certified MGB homer. Okay, so probably I get 95, 98% of my parts from MGB. More on that in a second. But anyway, so you got these vendors, and then you've got a few other smaller. If you look like on eBay, you can find some other vendors that sell some different parts. But anyway, so yeah, now you can kind of get parts, and to be honest, for the most part, there's really nothing special about parts to build a cigar box guitar. I mean, the reality is that you can go to StewMac or you can get on Amazon and get. and get things that that you might want. There are some parts that are specially made, like some of the vendors will sell bridges, like 3 and 4 string bridges that let's see, I think I've got one up here, or I had one last night. But anyway, hardtail bridges. That's what I'm looking for building like electric guitars. Um, so and some of the vendors also do pickups that are kind of specially made in terms of size and whatnot for these things. But anyway, um, here's what I'm looking for. Yep, it's a little hardtail bridge that's designed specifically for a 3 string guitar. But you don't necessarily need specific parts. You can, like I said, the whole concept really of building these things is came from people using what they had. But anyway, so now you're saying, okay, well, Rob, so who the heck are you? And thanks for the history lesson and all, but now how'd you get involved in this? Well, like I said, I'm Rob. I'm just an ordinary guy. Joined the army about 14 years ago. Have a wonderful wife, a couple wonderful kids, and a little fluffy dog. So I'm kind of a family guy. But anyway, so my dad, he was kind of a self-taught guitarist, and my stepdad also kind of taught himself to play guitar a little bit. And somehow I think between the two of them, now I never knew my dad, but I heard stories. Between the two of them, I developed a love of the instrument. My dad had this 12-string guitar that my uncle had given him, and then when my dad passed away, I inherited the guitar. So when I joined the army, I decided to leave the guitar at my parents' house. Didn't figure, do good to be dragging the thing all over the country or all over the world and risk losing it somewhere or breaking it or destroying it or whatnot. So I left it at home for safekeeping. About 3 years ago, I decided that, okay, maybe I, was in a little bit better place to kind of stabilize. And so I wanted to go to my mom's house, get the guitar, and bring it back to Florida where I was stationed at the time. Get home, guitar is not there. What happened to it? Who knows? A couple stories in the family. We'll not get into that. But anyway, so I was a little bit disappointed. I get back to Florida. I'm still kind of looking around on the internet and I stumble across this like cigarboxnation.com site, right? And I started reading about cigar box guitars. And one of the things it said was no rules. Disclaimer here: there are some rules, like science still applies. You still got to apply, account for string tension and some of that. But more on that stuff in a future video. But one of the things I took to heart with, okay, well, I still kind of want a 12-string guitar. Maybe I can build one out of a cigar box, right? So I got this box kit from one of the vendors. It's just little, plywood pieces, has sides, a top and bottom. You put it together, you put a little glue on it, and it makes a little plywood box about the size of a cigar box. Pop some holes in that for sound holes. Got some wood from Home Depot or Lowe's. Got some strings. Found material to make a bridge and a nut. Got some fret wire, made a fretboard for it, and built a short scale. I'm talking like 15 inches, ukulele size basically. But I built this 12-string guitar and it was playable. And then I built a couple of 6-string guitars for my kids. I thought, okay, well, this is the last I'll ever do. But then I started watching more YouTube videos. And, of course, like I said, I like guitars and I like the Fender Telecaster. I was watching one of my favorite YouTubers. His name's Mike Biancani of Southern Fire Guitars. He, I contacted him one day. I want to build a cigar box guitar based on a Fender Telecaster. So he says, well, hey, reach out to MGB Guitars in the Tampa area. They sell these pickups that are surface mount that might work for your application. So got on MGB's website, started doing a little research, started watching videos, started binge watching those, and then one day my daughter and I we go over to MGB's warehouse. I wanted to check the business out, right? And we met Michael Breedlove, the owner, and he treats my daughter like a princess, right? So I mean, just like instantly wins my business, even if he has what I'm looking for and not, right? Turns out he had what I was looking for and more. He hooked me up with a few cigar boxes, and so kind of here's some stuff to kind of get you started, right? Get your feet wet. Because like I said, up to this point, I'd only built three guitars in my entire life. So I started building guitars, and then oddly enough, MGB launched this body kit that's kind of a scaled down version of a Telecaster. Built one of those kits, started building a lot more, and got involved in some of the groups and saw that like a lot of builders they kind of have a side business going on. They sell their guitars, and so you had some people like Pegasus Instruments and Crumbly Caster and some others, and kind of took some inspiration from that. Says, well, maybe one day I might sell my guitars if I can get my quality good enough. But I says, I kind of need my own little logo, right? Because I build these things, and I kind of want to put something on the headstock that says it's kind of unique to me. So I thought, well, what can I use? Now, being in the army, I've pulled this duty called charge of quarters or CQs. Basically, you're a glorified babysitter in the barracks, right? And people who pull a lot of CQ duty are often called CQ rangers. So I kind of took that, and I've been called a CQ ranger, a time or two in my career. And I says, okay. I says, CQR CBIGs. Well, why CBIGs? Because yes, I will use a cigar box, but sometimes I will use other boxes like this little crap box I got at Walmart. Paint it, stain it, do whatever. Or this little tea box here. I'll use different things, right? So cigar box inspired guitars, right? Because that's where the inspiration comes from. But anyway, so I started putting CQR on my headstock, and hence I guess probably somewhere in 2020, you might say CQR CBIGs was founded. Now I've built close to 70 guitars. I think I'm probably on my 69th or 70th build right now. I'm not even real sure, but anyway, so I love doing it. It's a lot of fun. Like I said, I may start selling in the future. I don't know. We'll see where this thing goes, but anyway, so I launched this YouTube channel. I'm going to make some videos. Some of them will be me sitting here talking. Some of them might be, me doing a video showing how I go through, the process of building guitars and whatnot. But I'm hoping to have a little bit of fun with it. Um, Typical YouTuber, please, give me a like and subscribe. I hope, this stuff is informative for you guys. I hope you have some fun, and I hope we can kind of spread knowledge of these wonderful homemade instruments. Because I mean, again, the idea that I took the stuff I had, and made this instrument and it's playable, to me that's just like one of the coolest things in the world. But anyway, again, thank you for your time. Thank you for watching. We'll hope to produce more videos soon, and we'll see you.